Stanley. Jackie DeWeaver. Hey, Stanley.
Yes, yes.
Hey.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Is that Mr. Corsby that I see there? Welcome.
Yeah.
Yes. Crosby, not Carsby, Crosby.
Oops, sorry. I have him as, I've always thought it was, oh, I see how much I know. Oops.
You just had to go back to the first slide.
Yes, I realized I had it. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We're going to start in a minute or two. And I'm just going to make my 10th attempt to share my screen successfully. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 6th virtual event, Guyanese Love Poems, or depending on your preference, Guyanese Love Poems. My name is Isabel de Carries. I am the Chair of Trustees at Moray House Trust and the moderator for this event. For those joining us for the first time tonight, Moray House Trust is a private, non-partisan, non-profit based in Georgetown and dedicated to promoting Guyanese culture and public discourse. A warm Guyanese welcome to our regulars. Please note that this event is being live streamed via Facebook and YouTube. If you are on Zoom and would prefer not to be visible, please turn off your video on the bottom left of your Zoom screen. Writing in the second issue of Kike in 1946, A.J. Seymour calls different types of poetry the instruments in a poet's orchestra. If so, perhaps love poems might be categorized as violins, instruments that are difficult to play, where pitch and tone matter greatly, and a light touch yields a pure sound. Guyanese poetry in the 1940s was, Seymour notes, in its infancy. He laments the absence of one writer who could express the heart-deep longings and aspirations of the 6 peoples of Guyana. Some might argue that Martin Carter would later come close to filling that role. With the benefit of time, we can note that even in the fairly random sample of love poems and praise songs we will hear shortly, there are discernible traits of a national style. For example, the use of humor and ridicule as a leitmotif, and the rhythms and cadences of the spoken word. Many of these poems come alive when read aloud. Several are a little limp, a little less compelling on the page. Ours is an oral culture. Our poetry is performative. As in our day-to-day verbal exchanges, meaning is bound up with tone, context, speaker, and audience. Some of the poems are discursive, others are compact. At a time when words are traded carelessly via tweet or email or some such medium, the care, the craft, and the compression characteristic of poems is an antidote. Our first poem this afternoon was composed by John Agard. John Agard is a poet, playwright, and short story writer from Georgetown who has lived in the UK since the late 1970s. This poem, Smoke Loving Girl Blues, bears his characteristic trademark, an impish wit. The poem is read by Eliana Sampson, an 18-year-old who loves reading and is pursuing a degree in environmental studies at the University of Guyana. Eliana?
Good day, everyone. Smoke-loving girl blues. Would like her for my girlfriend any day. Would follow if she showed the way. Would feel honored if she be my queen. But she's a smoke-loving girl and I'm allergic to nicotine. Would wheel with her on the ice skating rink. Would fall with her over the brink. Would stare with her, bewitched and serene. But she's a smoke-loving girl and I'm allergic to nicotine. Would give her my last polo mint. Would hit the skies if she gave me a hint. Would do anything, even dye my hair green. But she's a smoke-loving girl and I'm allergic to nicotine. Would lay down my jacket for her gorgeous feet. Would fan her cheeks to keep away the heat. Would shine her shoes till she's lost in the sheen. But she's a smoke-loving girl and I'm allergic to nicotine. Lord, now my head is in a haze 'cause of that girl and her smoke-loving ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Martin Carter requires little introduction to a Guyanese audience, by whom he is generally recognized as our greatest poet. The first of two poems, For My Son, is read by Aisha Scotland, a young visual artist and entrepreneur. Aisha owns a small business called Aisha's Ingenuity, specializing in textile and fiber arts. She enjoys writing and directing poetry, drama, and film. Aisha?
The street is in darkness. Children are sleeping. Mankind is dreaming. It is midnight. It is midnight. The sun is away. Stars peep at cradles. Far seems the day. Who will awaken one little flower, sleeping and growing hour and hour? Dew is awake. Morning is soon. Mankind is risen. Flowers will bloom. Thank you.
Thank you. That was lovely. Martin's second poem, My Hand in Yours, dates from 1972 and is read by Alinda Cadogan. Alinda has a love and appreciation for the arts. Alinda?
My hand in yours. As in sleep, my hand in yours, and yours in mine. Your voice in my hearing and memory, like the sounds of stars as they shine, not content with light only. My fingertips walk on your face gently. They tiptoe as a dream does, awake from sleep into waking. In a tree somewhere, a bird calls out, and I wake up. My hand still in yours, in the midst of the sound of stars and a far bird. Thank you.
Thank you. That was lovely. Mahadai Das, born in Eccles and of rice farming stock, was at various points a university student, teacher, and Miss Diwali beauty queen. She is best known for her poem about the arrival of indentured laborers in Guyana. They came in ships. Today's poem, Come Breakfast With Me, is from her third volume, Bones, and is read by Stanley Greaves. Stanley? Okay, Stan, you need to turn off your, or turn on your audio.
Can you
Yep,
hear me now?
wonderful. That's it.
It's indeed a pleasure to read a poem by Mahadai Das, because I feel she's one of the brightest poets that we ever had in Guyana. This particular poem is called Come Breakfast With Me. Come breakfast with me, love, as I dressed in white skirts of pure morning, as I step lightly upon the grassy hem of the world, as summer flowers lend the air their perfume and garlands of sunlight adorn me. Put your glass in my tray, fresh orange fruits of the day, early croissant, black coffee with cream. Let us sit around white tables of conversation, offering Hegel a roll, inviting Kant to counter. Let us, wrist upon wrist, finger upon finger, list upon chaste lips, sing to each other with our silent, deep songs and our gazes full of birds. Let us recount our dreams, jewel the swords and innocent lovers, unintended wounds and democratic energies. Let us breakfast together, love, in wide, white skirts of pure morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline de Weaver, born in Georgetown, now lives in Brooklyn, New York. Her latest collection of poems, Seed Mistress, was published by the Poets Press, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2020. Jacqueline reads one of her own poems, Love Song. Jacqueline?
Yes, this is Love Song, and it's a love poem to Vredenhoop, where I grew up. Love Song. I didn't know I loved you, little green-striped yellow snake, come out from the long grass seeking sun. That I loved the mango shelter for reading, its canopy for silence. That the iguana in high grass would haunt my dreams like a guardian angel, whispering a secret code. That the cherry tree could wiggle its caterpillar baggage into my lap. And that all these would so entangle blood, vein, breath, to capture me in liana vines of longing. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next poem is by Ivan Forrester, of whom Martin Carter said, "To be a poet is to be able to make a judgment. Pharaoh is a poet." Forrester poet and painter, was born in Manchester Village on the Quarantine, the same village as Philip Moore, and worked as a hydromet officer for the Public Works Department, spending long periods in the hinterland. Some of his poems have a playful tone, like this one, A Thought for 14th February. The poem is read by Jessica Kissoon, a second-year medical student at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. Among other hobbies, Jessica enjoys singing, playing the piano and the guitar, and photography. Jessica?
A Thought for the 14th of February by Ivan Forster. Romeo drank a poisoned potion. For what, I have no notion. For love, they say, must be the truth. That's why poor Juliet followed suit. A gay Casanova kissed his lover, but it all ended just the same. He strangled her beneath the clover, his love too deep to let another love her. A legion fought against a legion for land they loved too dear to let another cross its region. But for lives, hath they cared? Even love's symbol, Cupid, from the heart, with pure love flowing in his marrow, when wooing a maiden's heart with a vicious bow and arrow. Tell me not that this is love, else I ask with no restraint, what God hath we in heaven above, or who in hell made Valentine a saint? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. The late Michael Giltz' talents run across the spectrum. He was both creative and critic. Michael was a distinguished actor, playwright, poet, lecturer, literary critic, director, and filmmaker. These two poems give a sense of his range as a poet. The first, Love's Rain, is read by Lloyd Marshall. Lloyd?
Love's Rain. Some days it rained in spite of sun. Clouds would gather in a moment to bring light showers or flood. A storm broke late one night. She cried aloud. He held her then as gently as he could, safe in the arms of love. When it was done, that wind and driving rain, they were in love for good. Railed now by that instinct, their lives would run as one life on a double track. It would. You see that old couple in their kitchen? They're still in love. Watching the kettle boil together, their passion steady as that hissing steam shining like a sheet of kitchen foil. Tonight, watching the rain clouds gather above, they celebrate the glory of the rain of love. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michael Giltz's second poem, Son of Guyana, is read by Francis Quamina Farrier. Francis is a friend and contemporary of Michael's, familiar with the eras described in this poem. Francis also wrote a feature article about Michael when he passed last year. Francis, you're going to need to turn your audio on for me. Yep, I think you're there. Nope. Yes, now we're good. Thank you.
Don't tell me about Guyana. I born there in 33. My great-grandfather was a black man. Grandmother was a Portuguese. One of my grandfather was a coolie man. I draw buck, white, and Chinese. They call it land of six peoples. But it's seven, unless you don't count me.
Okay, Francis, we've lost your audio there for some reason. Sorry. Yep, now we've got you again. That's great.
Don't tell me about Guyana. I born there in 33. My great-grandfather was a black man. Grandmother was a Portuguese. One of my grandfather was a coolie man. I draw buck, white, and Chinese. They call it land of six peoples. But it's seven, unless you don't count me. We had timber, bauxite, diamond, and gold. Sugar was king of the crop, and Union Jack was upon every flagpole, and class upon class. So with the white man upon top. Don't tell me about Guyana. I was a small boy in 58 when black police shoot down Coolie in the strike at Edmore Estate. But Coolie and nigger was me, Matty. But I didn't take it too hard. My father had a job in an office, not in no estate yard, hear me? Class upon class. So with the white man upon top. So don't tell me about Guyana. Don't talk about old BG. They call it Booker's Guyana, since Booker's own all of we. Estate, grocery, dry goods, drugstore, even the boats in the sea. One year a hell of a fire, burned down the biggest shop, the last piece of the empire. But you think that could have made things up? Nah, class upon class, so with the rich man upon top. So don't tell me about Guyana. I did it in 53. Cheddy and Forbes win the elections, and we start for feel like we free. Man, Booker's there on strike. Feel like one pass for grass. Class start shifting upon class. So with the rich man upon top, shaking upon top. Don't tell me about Guyana. Constitution paper ain't dry yet when the tanks roll down Water Street like was some damn movie set. The Black Watch soldiers come with a big black boots and their gun and their sun-tan eye and their skin full of bile for put class back upon class. So with the rich man upon top. Don't tell me about Guyana. Next election, a Panjat was the shout. And there in 57, Cheddy win outright a doubt. The rich man start praying and the CIA start their campaign. Soon they had be killing each other. Was coolie and nigger again, while class still upon class. So with the rich man upon top. Don't make joke about Guyana if you don't want a cough in your mouth. I didn't want to leave. You know, I just feel I had to get out. I had was to left Guyana. I left there in 61. Independence was a word, Ponabana. And I didn't black nor Indian. I start feeling the strain, a kind of middleman pain. When class been mashing up class, so with the party on top. So don't tell me about Guyana. I don't want to hear. Don't tell me how things they're so bad now. Every jack living in fear. How they're using their head just to catch a little bread. And how class like it just disappear. I am a son of Guyana, the land that I love so dear, and I swear to make God I'm going back there. But Chief, I can't make it this year.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was, I think that did him justice. Thanks, Francis. Our next few poems are by Stanley Greaves. Stanley is a Guyanese poet, sculptor, painter, educator, writer, and classical guitarist. He is also a staunch and selfless supporter of Guyanese arts and culture. Stan? Hopefully he hasn't fallen off our feed. Stan, I'm not seeing you. You might need to take your...
You're muted, Stanley. Just unmute.
Yeah, I just saw it on mute.
Ah, well done.
Thank you. We were talking about our love poems, and there are two very strong categories, as they call it, the sacred and the profane. And profane is not necessarily a negative word. It just means love that deals with the material existence. The first poem I'd like to read is entitled Encounter. Put on my 4i. Encounter. What do I do? Just wait, she said, and let the thing happen. I have been waiting since and seen many things happen, but not that. The next poem is entitled First Dance. An invitation to the party came, all neat like an egg with a tie, and you felt happy and steady like that framed the photo on the wall. Trembling what ifs and buts attack new dressed up thoughts. What if she asks you to dance? Square up yourself like biscuits. Let yes fall as eager mangoes do. Shoes will move easy as butterflies. Toes won't know where they are. Of course you care. She's with you. Move like the flag on a windy day. Savor the moment eternity long when the song without end begins. Next poem is entitled Lily and the Leaf. Ahead lies the garden where kisses make flowers grow and whispers water them. You be the lily and I, the leaf to catch each jewel falling from your eyes. And in that hour, when the sun becomes a glowing blue worm cocooned by clouds, I shall string you a necklace of gossamer. A poem entitled Dream of Pharaoh's Daughter. On a blanket of stars collecting dimples, I listen to your eyes and hear smiles as the clock throws each long second away. 3 doves in a circle move away far, far in sympathy with waves and sharp intervals of secret crickets. Next poem is entitled Orema. Footfalls predict shadows as a finger anticipates the direction of a vine curling upon itself, exploring linkages. Grief, privately gentle, somewhere contemplates the exodus of love, wondering whether a moment is anything but that which confounds thought. like the green flash of a sun or the unnoticed annihilation of spark to air. The next poem is entitled Dazuma. Was smoothness to ivory the same my hand felt over land-scarped hip of infallible tissue? Wilderness and eyes have a singular dedication to inscrutable black. Night offers a sigh and the mad delight of shadows and the shaping of starred rain. And the last poem. The last poem is entitled Shirley Star Apple. How I envied that skin, so magnificent in the sun, like green and purple, so textured like the fuzz of a bright star apple leaf to eye and hand. Fruits are without artifice. The presentation is be sucked or cut. Taste becomes experience straight and transcendent, like fruits forever falling. But you, magnificent, in black, green, and purple, were never sucked or cut in tides of sun or moon. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next poem, Seasons, from a collection called Echoes of Thoughts, was written by Captain Lloyd Marshall. Lloyd is a professional pilot, a self-taught classical guitarist, and enjoys reading, writing, and performing poetry. Lloyd?
Thank you. Seasons. I want to speak to you in the new language of spring, fresh conversations of life and all the joys that love can bring. I want so much to touch you, gently kiss and caress you, like the quiet winter snowflakes softly falling on lamb's wool. I want to whisper, I love you. Such tender words, but yet holding the power of an autumn breeze, shaking leaves from trees. I want to make love to you with all the desire and fire of the summer sun, chanting the solar serenade and reaching, forever reaching for peace and shade. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ian MacDonald has been described as Antiguan by ancestry, Trinidadian by birth, Guyanese by adoption, and West Indian by conviction. Mercy Ward, from which this poem was taken, was a collection of poems set in a hospital familiar to all Guyanese. Nurse Guyadine and the Preacher is read by Jasper Adams. Jasper is a long-time follower of things artistic and an aspiring playwright. Jasper?
Thank you. A most unusual place to find a poem that speaks of love, but when I read this poem, all I could hear in it was a love story. And it is Nurse Guyadine and the Preacher, Ian MacDonald. Best nurse in here was Sati Guyadine. Bright, loving, strict, humorous, and clean. Dealt briskly with every chore, yet strove beyond accept, endure. Sati Guyadine, fresh morning breeze, stepping in on edge of dance. You made a difference in this place. Who claims even half perfection? Hope and bravery in every glance. You nudged life in the right direction. Big feud broke out once in here. It livened up the ward for a while. They brought in Herman Forrester, a pavement preacher all his life. He had his pitch in Water Street, up and down the pave all day. Save your soul, repent, repent. The world it end tonight at 8. Repent, repent, it's not too late. Every Friday, 11 o'clock, he took a stand by Royal Bank. Money is the root of all evil. It eat out your soul like biscuit weevil. And Wednesday by J.P. Santa's story lectured on Mosaic law. In here, he didn't stop for breath. All day you heard his preacher mouth, repent your sins before you die. If you were God's children, then all right. He pointed straight up to the sky. But when he said where sinners go, he pointed dramatically low, implying that those he saw around would taste hellfire on the ground. In all the wards, distress began. They frightened of this preacher man, who with, say, a month to go, likes to be condemned below. Nurse Guyane, brisk and firm, decided herself to handle him. People can't have peace in here. Hush up or water pour on you. She would have poured a drop or two. The big feud start up straight away. Preacher man forget to preach. You have a new thing now to do. Bad talking Guyane, black and blue. Parrot monkey, la penitence rat. Guyane more ugly than that. He spends his hours thinking hard and looking happy when he could shout, someone smell like pit latrine. It must have to be Nurse Guyane. And Guyane, given as good as got, lip match lip, hot for hot. And when she think he get too fast, she just jam an enema up his ass. The quarrel kept the whole ward bright. Who win today was the talk tonight. For a good 10 days, they had it out, row for row, shout for shout. But I noticed how she took her cue. He began to weaken. She weakened too. The last few days, it didn't count. His mind wandered north and south. Sweet Jesus walked in Stabroek Market, and honey rained on Zion's Mount. Good riddance, claimed the Nurse Guyane. When she came to hear he died at noon, she set straight about her many tasks, brought clean sheets, plumped up the pillows. The empty bed was filled by 6. The new chart written up and fixed. She made sure the night lamps were all lit. And then she cried a bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A.J. Seymour was the spirit and engine behind many cultural initiatives in Guyana for much of the latter half of the last century, aptly described by Ian MacDonald as a one-man cultural task force. He is best remembered as a poet and the editor of Kike Overall. Joan Seymour reads Youth's Love Song from A.J. Seymour's collected poems. Joan Seymour is a former Guyanese diplomat and for 25 years a political analyst at the United Nations. She is the second of the children of A.J. Seymour. Joan?
Thank you. Youth's Love Song. There is a land where the blossoms blow and the kisses gleam white like the new strewn snow, where the world is tranced by the blazing sun and the hours run, laughing one by one, and the sea nymphs dance on the fine white sand, and the bell chimes peal joy over the land, and the green parrots dart through the rustling trees, and a faint swelling music is blown through the breeze, and my soul leaps, singing, to see her appear, for her smile is the sesame to enter there. When my beloved comes, I am aware of hushed perfumed brightness in the air. My heart is drowned in wonder at her walk, a slender lily wind swayed on its stalk. No organist of beauty can quite seize the music of her body's harmonies. The tiny shadows play around her lips and break to smiles, as when the swallow dips and starts a pool's still face to circles wide that ripple outward to the pool's round side, circles within circles. Sometimes when her skin I touch shivers. My delight is such, make me tremble icy cold, lest I be considered bold. Wistful eddies of delight sweep my brain and blind my sight. Heart would thud in sweet alarm at her swift encircling arm round my neck possessively. But she's merely kind to me. When her warm lips near mine bend, it is just to whisper, friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hannah Singh is a young poet and recent graduate of Guyana's National School of Theatre, Arts and Drama. Hannah reads one of her own poems, Lover's Lane. Hannah? Hannah, you're showing us on mute. Okay, we're not picking Hannah up for some reason there. We will come back to her in a minute. We'll just move on to the next poem for now. Letter to My Unborn Son appeared in the second edition of Kike in June 1946. It is written by James W. Smith, who was at the time the secretary of the recently minted British Guyana Writers Association, set up in 1944 to, among other things, publish a literary journal, Kike Overall. Keon Hayward is a young Guyanese poet, spoken word practitioner, and actor. Keon? Keon, you're on mute, I'm afraid. That's it. Wonderful.
Letter to my unborn son. My son, but dare I call you son, since no one knows how soon you'll see the light of day. I cannot think of you as some dim future hope. You are a part of me, even though the blood which is your very life still flows from within my veins. You are the star by which I steer my ship, my guide, comfort, my friend. Someday, my son, I'll gaze upon your noble countenance. I'll see my flesh upon your bones. I'll feel my red blood pounding through your veins. And then we'll build the future, son. We'll top the rainbow's gold and ride cold Luna's horses through the night. Together, we'll build the world anew and slay the vipers, lest they feed upon the hearts of men. And when my aged limbs no more shall serve the soul which still fights on, you still will toil when I am gone. I shall be proud of you, my son.
Thank you. Thank you, Keon. I don't think we've got Hannah back with us yet. So we're going to move on to our final poem, which is Pleasure. This was composed by J.C. Watson, a budding poet and writer. It's read by Jasper Adams. Jasper?
I had to unmute. Pleasure by J.C. Watson is a writer whom I met in Guyana, who she doesn't think she can write, but I beg to differ. Pleasure by J.C. Watson. Snuggled down beside you, aromatized by your brandy-fine breath, spaces between us have died a cruel, sudden death. Pregnant with awareness of your love for me, saturated by Khalil Gibran's wisdom rumbling from your chest, pouring from your plum-full lips pressed against my temples. In this space, I lose myself, softly closing my eyes. Millions of years pass us by, changing thoughts, changing seasons, breaking patterns and old habits, giving birth to maturity, relinquishing reasons to remain stagnant. Pleasure erases years of pain, and the rain on the rooftop is all that is missing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have Hannah back with us, so we can try again. Hannah?
So sorry for the previous technical difficulties, everyone. All right, just give me 1 second, please. Yeah, so the poem is entitled Lover's Lane. This is a story of love, of the path lovers must take to love themselves first before loving each other. So it begins. He said, if I could, I would trace my fingers across the planes of your body so that I would know what it feels like to fly, weightless and without a parachute. I would run my hand through the tresses of your hair and experience the thrill of running a marathon, leaving you breathless and wanting for more. If I could, I would drown my senses in your laughter. I would just to drown in your happiness a little while longer. I would soak you in with my eyes just to absorb the way you are, existing in time and space, whole. If I could, I would trail kisses on the contours of your face, so that maybe I would know what it feels like to read Braille. Loving you has rendered me blind in every way. So if I could, I would exist for you and only you. To which she replied, I am well aware of the intricacies of love, the way the web it weaves manages to trap those that feel so deeply for another. So I beseech thee to listen to the song of life. It is but an endless cycle of love in its many forms, a science of attraction, truly. So here is my truth. If I could, I would love me first, then you. So the cycle continues where one story ends, another will begin. That is the way of nature, the nature of love. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So very nice to end there with a little spoken word, as it turned out. So many thanks to all of the readers who have contributed to tonight's recital. Eliana, Aisha, Olinda, Stanley, Jacqueline, Jessica, Lloyd, Francis, Jasper, Joan, Hannah, and Keon. Thank you also to Dr. Joyce Jonas for helping to source some of them. Sincere thanks to Hannah Singh and Joan MacDonald, who provide invaluable support behind the scenes. We have a few minutes now in which you are welcome to ask a question or make a comment. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise your hand icon. For those following on Facebook or YouTube, please use the chat option. Hannah, if possible, can you keep an eye on the Facebook for me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's possible.
My picture's not there. Wendy.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, well received, very well described. Enjoyable evening. However, I'd like to ask you to give me the names of Stanley Greaves' last 3 poems. I didn't get them. One was 4 days something. Then you had the Summa, was it? And something Star Apple.
I'm going to let Stanley answer that.
Okay.
Stan?
The last 3.
Yeah. Stan, you might need to do your audio.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, now.
Yes.
Yeah. The one was Orema, which is an invented name, of course.
Say that slowly, please.
Orema, O-R-E-M-A.
Yes.
The next one was Dazuma, D-A-Z-U-M-A.
Thank you. And
the third one was Shirley Starapple.
I had that, but I wasn't sure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. And then Captain Marshall. His was Thoughts or Seasons? Captain Marshall.
Lloyd, would you like to answer that? You might need to unmute.
In the meantime, you can give me the name of Ian MacDonald's. Sati, was it?
So,
the one that Jasper read, written by Ian MacDonald.
Yes, that's called Nurse Guyadine and the Preacher.
Oh, thanks.
It's from Mercy Ward.
Yes, thank you.
And Lloyd's poem is called Seasons, and it's from his collection called Echoes of Thoughts.
Excellent. I think I have just one more. Bear with me, please. This is useful, very useful. A.J. Seymour's love song. What was the word before love song? I know it was read by his daughter.
Youth.
Youth's love song. Youth's love song. Yes. Thank you. And J.C., the last one that Jasper read.
J.C. Watson was the poet.
Yeah.
What?
J.C. Watson.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Excellent.
welcome.
I enjoyed it. Please repeat.
Thank you.
Another time.
Any other questions or comments?
Philip here. I know that Stanley doesn't do anything without a reason. So does he have a story behind the 2 made-up names?
Yeah, they're all made-up names to remind me of people I once knew. The names are, I've done a little bit of messing about with the language of our native peoples, and I thought that those names sound very much like they belong to our first people, Dazuma, Orima, and that's the story behind those names.
Thank you.
Okay. Was that Philip? Yes. Okay, Philip, I'm going to lower your hand. Mr. Bob Semple.
Good evening all.
Hi, good evening.
The poem Fought for 14th February by Ivan Forrester. Where could I acquire a copy of that? Because his poem, A Voice from Puffy's Grave, that I have used for eons as an audition piece. and which has won me a few jobs. But I would love to get a copy of that, A Thought for 14th February, and any other of Ivan Forrest's pieces if they're available and where. Thank you.
Sorry, my dog is barking in the background, but Ivan's poems are like gold dust, unfortunately. As you know, I think we actually did an event sort of paying tribute to his work some years back, and I was able to get a copy of his poems. I think it was from the either the National Library or the UG Library. If you email in to Moray House Trust, I will happily send you a copy of the Thought for 14th February. But I don't know of any sort of anywhere else that you can, as I say, there literally seem to be, you know, a few dozen copies of these, of this book available. So I don't know where to tell you to be able to go and find it. But we'll do what we can to oblige.
I thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes, please do.
Ivan Forrester was actually discovered, so to speak, by a minister from SUK, what's his name again? My memory for names. In the Burnham government.
Ptolemy Reed.
Dr. Ptolemy Reed. He discovered Ivan Forrester in Bartica, lying on some rice bags. Saw his paintings, brought Ivan to Georgetown, found space for him to paint, so he had an exhibition. I wrote the foreword for his catalog exhibition, and he was also able to produce the book of poems. It's a very, very slim volume of poems, and I should have a copy somewhere, so I'm going to make a search, and if I do find it, I will send, make copies of it and send to Isabel.
Thank
you. Ivan was quite a character because he was also an excellent musician. Ivan used to play the piano, and he could also play the church organ. He was a very good musician. So, you know, he was a true poet, artist, eccentric. Ivan once went to St. George's School and offered to feed a particular class of children, took them to a restaurant, and they were fed. That's Ivan Forrester. Yeah. He's a very good dancer as well. The thing that we call break dancing, Ivan Forrester used to do that. He used to come to my home. I had to play the drums, and he would dance all over the floor for my daughters who had a great time welcoming Ivan. A very generous spirit, a genuine person, a real person. And I got to know him through Martin Carter. Yeah.
The first time I got an opportunity to actually see him was I was being interviewed by Roland Phillips on the Radio Demerara.
Okay.
And there, Ivan Forrester was standing right outside that glass by the front door. Yes. And Roland said, yeah, Ron Boy, you know who that is? I said, no. He said, that's Ivan Forrester.
Ivan Forrester, well, he was a true forest indeed, loved the forest. Ivan was a person who used to be able to pick up snakes. Ivan used to pick up snakes with his hands, yes. And I once asked him, what is the most awful sound you can hear in the jungle, in the forest? And I thought it would be the roar of a jaguar or something. He says, no, a tree falling in the dead of night.
Wow.
A tree falling in the dead of night. You wouldn't know where that tree is, where it's going to fall, where it's coming down. That's what he said. A tree falling in the dead of night. Another time I heard him speaking to some students at the Borough School of Art, and he was talking about poetry, and he said to them, you know, if you're a true poet, you have to be able to stand up and recite one of your poems. But when I heard that, I realized that I was not in the class of a true poet, because I have a very poor verbal memory. So I you know, even in primary school, I used to have problems standing up to recite poetry. So that was it. But he's quite right about that, because poetry came, the poetry is a spoken form, and it became before writing. It is the action of words and the voice and the songs and the rhythms and the patterns. That is the thing that works with you, not the reading in the book. So he's quite right about that. You have to be able to declaim your poetry. And he used to do so. He used to do so. Oh, yes. Whenever we were out drinking somewhere, Ivan would command silence. And then he would begin to recite. We went once to a little restaurant called Hibiscus. It used to be next to the library. We were having some drinks there, Raymond Mandel, Martin Carter, myself. And Ivan was very quiet. And I realized right away something is going to happen. He was not taking part in the conversation. He's very quiet, his head down, sit like that. And then suddenly got up. So I kept an eye on him. He walked across the room. He picked up a chair and smashed it on the table. And of course, the bartender rushed out and we told him, no, don't go near to that man right now. We're going to deal with it. And all that Ivan was saying to himself quietly was, while
Cicely, is that, I wonder if that's what's her name.
Who? What's that?
And I think there was just a brief interruption.
Yes.
Stan, I've got a question waiting. So
this is the last story about Ivan. Anybody who knows Ivan Forrester has a whole set of stories about him. So he smashed the table. And what he was doing when he was not taking part in the conversation, he was murmuring quietly to himself, I want to say a poem. I want to say a poem. And nobody's listening to him. So he demanded attention, and then he was able to recite his poem. Thank you very much.
Plot for a play.
Yes. Yeah. You
heard that, Kian?
You could write a play.
I did, Uncle Francis. And
Not just domestic violence. Every play in Guyana now is domestic violence. I'm tired of it. Okay, Kian, you know, you're my star boy. You're one of the greatest of the young brigade.
There you go.
Okay, I have a question or a comment, I don't know, from Vanda. Vanda's been waiting patiently.
Hello, can you hear me, Isabel?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me, Isabel?
Yep, we can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, just to say that, well, to thank you very much for this this lovely event, and to follow up from Stanley. I never met Farrier himself, but I got to know all about him from Martin Carter. Martin Carter would very often quote, declaim Farrier's poetry by heart. And Martin was a great promoter of Ivan Forrester, well as a man, but especially of his poetry. And he said on more than one occasion, this is Martin saying, that a lot of Ivan Forrester's poetry remained unpublished. So maybe, Isabel, in this forum here, if anybody has or knows where some of Farrier's unpublished or poems could be, it really could be something that we could try to collect. I also believe, but I'm not 100% sure, that the Caribbean Press did publish a volume of Farrier's poetry, or maybe they republished the slim volume that Stanley is talking about. But I just wanted to share that, and also to say that in Martin's home in Lamaha Street, Martin had pieces of Farrier's art. And I'm hoping that Sonia or Keith or one of Martin's children actually still have those paintings. And maybe Sonia, who's collecting Martin's work, unpublished work as well, might have some of Farrier's unpublished. Thank you, Isabel.
Thanks, Vanda. Okay, everyone. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments, and so I'm going to bring proceedings to a close with just a warm round of thanks once again to everyone who's been involved, to the very patient readers and the many rehearsals that we've had, and the various exchanges along the way. Thank you all. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Isabella.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you. It's
Very
wonderful
nice
to see
to see you.
Ken. Ken Corsby.
There you
Yes.
Hey Ken, how you doing?
Hi, Ken.
Very good.
Nice to see Ron Bob Semple.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
Uncle
Miss-
Francis.
Hi, Ken.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bob Semple.
Who's
Hello,
speaking?
Ron. How are you? You can't see my face, but my name is there. Wendy, brother.
Oh my goodness gracious.
God bless.
Yeah, thank
Enjoy
you.
your Valentine's.
Thank you very much. You do the same.
Yes, it's wonderful to see Ken Corsby. Ken, and I think that we need to perhaps nudge the government, the powers that be, to award Ken Corsby one of the highest of Guyana's honors, and perhaps when post-COVID, that we should celebrate right here in Guyana the work of Ken Corsby. I think it's very long overdue, and hail up, Ken.
Yay, yay, yay.
Here, 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 here.
May I say something before we close? I do agree somewhat with what you're saying. However, I think we depend on government to do things too much. There are enough cultural organizations in Guyana that can come together and give Ken his flowers. He has earned them. He continues to earn them, and they, between the Theater Guild and the, whoever, all the folk. The man who brought basketball to Guyana, that's Ken Corsby.
Yes, that's right.
That's Ken Corsby. Me want them to all the way. Come on now, come on. That's just my little semi-rant.
No, rants are welcome. This is what gives us ideas for future events. I'm hearing
Yeah.
lots of things that
Before you
sound
go-
like people volunteering.
Here's my wife. Beth.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Beth.
Hello, Beth.
Hello.
The rest.
So-
Francis, you did a good job. You did a good job.
Yes, Francis.